So welcome in to oh shit. So welcome in to episode 0 of 30-minute search history, brought to you by To Be Determined Entertainment. Follow us on YouTube, like, subscribe. So this is episode 0 because it's a practice episode. Not going on the YouTube page, but going directly to Hunter. And you are the one that has kind of helped me figure out that I want to do this and have been super helpful in helping me get started and encouraging me to do more. And so the first 30-minute search history is going to be the history of puzzles. I know nothing about puzzles besides what I've done, and I know that you like puzzles and are currently doing one. So good luck, and I'm going to go search 30-minute search history of puzzles. So let's get to it. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so this is not fact checked, it's all just searched by me, and I'm gonna try to get you the best information. And so, after 30 minutes of searching on the World Wide Web, I found out a lot about puzzles. So let's get started. They were potentially initially used in ancient Greece or even Egypt, and going back to 2300 BC, they had brain teases and mazes that appeared, and they're not quite sure. Artifacts have been lost over time, but they have really good suspicion that that's where puzzles first began. And then we're going to jump to 1000 BC, where Chinese puzzles and objects appeared, so more tangible and more like artifact based. And then the next time jump goes to 200 BC, where shaped puzzles had arrived. And then you get to that time period where Archimedes was doing geometry, and Archimedes' box had been invented by him. And it's a 14-piece disassembled piece. So 200 BC, shaped puzzles arrived, and Archimedes' box was very popular, and he used it for geometry. So it was a box of 14 pieces that could be solved 17,152 ways for those 14 different pieces to fit into the same sized box. And this was a big endeavor at the time, and it was very interesting and drew a lot of folks to try and solve this puzzle. And there was lots of different ways to do it, but using geometry you could solve it in many ways. And Archimedes, fun fact, also was the person that was known for giving an approximation of the number pi. So for all the math people out there, that's very fun. So now we get into the modern history of jigsaw puzzles. So more modern puzzle, the jigsaw puzzle, was first invented in 1762, and they give credit to John Spilsberg. He was a map creator, and he had carved maps into wood and then cut out the countries and would give that to children to try to solve and play with. And so it was the first jigsaw puzzle was a map of the world and different countries inside of it you could cut out and play with. So that was very interesting. And then we move forward 150 years to 1900, where puzzles in the wooden form were all the rage. And then in 1908, a full-blown craze had arrived. It was very difficult to solve because puzzles were cut at colors, and so the transition of pieces was non-existent and much harder to find. They also didn't have a picture or had a misleading title to make it even harder to solve. So puzzles back then were much more difficult than they were now, which meant people spent longer doing them, and they were higher quality since most of them were wooden pieces. And then we're going to do, going back to that, they also cost only $5. But at that time, it was very expensive because in current currency, that's 150 plus American dollars. And they would even go out on Saturday, a very popular puzzle day, and buy them for house parties that they would have over the weekend. So yes, they would have a party, and the main theme would be solving one of these puzzles that at the time was very expensive. So then we're going to jump to 1930s, the Great Depression. Puzzles became a way for people to feel like they achieved something. Unemployment rate was over 25%, so accomplishing a puzzle felt great. And because they were really expensive, people that were laid off, like carpenters and other woodworkers, would make puzzles and be able to rent them out for 3 to 10 cents a day. And so a lot of people could afford them, and it gave them something to do and feel accomplished upon completion. And so then we go to 1932, and this is when they were able to make them out of more cardboard, not as easily, but still able to. Kind of expensive, but they used it as a promotional piece. And so if you bought a product such as toothpaste, you would be able to get a puzzle for free with that, and it would be a picture of the product. So it was a great marketing strategy because you not only would buy their product, you would spend hours assembling a puzzle that pictures their product. And so that's all you could think about. And so by now, in 1932, cardboard had become cheaper because of this, and how they engineered it became easier to mass produce, which is when cardboard puzzles started to get a little more popular, but weren't full-blown marketed yet. Wooden puzzles were still very in existence and for sale. And then in 1942, same year, Frank Ware and John Herquaes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, they were the first people to make traditional puzzles more difficult to solve. And so they realized by using odd shapes that people couldn't just search for corner or edge pieces, that they had to actually dig in and figure out the missing pieces of the puzzle and how they would be arranged, and they weren't the standard puzzle which you see still today. And so not only did they draw attention with that, they became very popular. And we will continue on the next page. So these were called par puzzles, and they modeled them after, in addition, they started to market them by modeling them after pop culture figures. They started modeling them after pieces of art, pictures of celebrities, movie stars, all of that. And so now pop culture got intertwined with puzzles, which allowed it to be easily marketed, and people could look forward to solving a puzzle of something they enjoyed in addition to puzzles. And then we're going to do a little time jump right there to 1968, where the two friends retired, and because of that, their puzzle company very quickly folded under. And around this time, you could also start customizing puzzles, where you would request something such as a birthday, a photo of you. Any of that could now be produced in a puzzle and given as gifts, or customizable to yourself so that you had something to solve that you enjoyed doing. And so that added another layer of marketing to it. And then we're going to go back 3 years before the brothers retired to 1965. This was the last big movement in puzzles. By now, cardboard was even cheaper and mass-produced, which allowed all puzzles to be made on cardboard with pictures of pop culture and popular references like they currently are today in 1965. And so that hundreds of thousands of people would do these puzzles every weekend as a hobby. And so that is the history of puzzles. And so over the last 65 years, not too much has changed within puzzles, or I should say 60 years, so that they're still popular today. They're the standard jigsaw puzzle that you make, and the pop culture references are all from that time period of the 60s, where they really start to become more popular, mass-produced, and widely available. So I hope you enjoyed this episode 0 of 30-Minute Search History of Puzzles. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you come back and listen to more. So be ready for episode 1. So once again, thank you, Hunter, for the support and allowing me to have a great idea for the first episode of 30-Minute Search History, brought to you by To Be Determined Entertainment. So have a great night, and I hope you're at home enjoying doing your puzzle.